the right to know what is actually going on in the world. Not the world as propagandists and ideologues imagine it to be, but what's actually going on in the world and in your community. So
right, and mainstream media always lets us know actually what's going on. You know, Joe Biden is healthy. Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. The vaccine is safe and effective. You know, they always tell us the truth. Welcome back to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm your guest host, Chris Keene. I'm filling in for Jimmy. He's on his way back from Australia as we speak. I'm here with Misha Paulin and the hilarious Kurt Metzger. Bari Weiss is saving the country. Good news, folks. Bari Weiss says she wants to use her new perch at CBS News to, quote, redraw the lines of what falls in the 40 yards of acceptable debate. I can't wait for someone to tell me what's acceptable debate.
I can't think of a better person than this bird from atop her perch.
So she's going to tell us what's acceptable debate in American political and cultural life. She says the aim is to sideline voices like Hasan Piker, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes and elevate charismatic figures such as people she agrees with, is what that should say.
You don't think the Dersh is one of the most electrifying?
Which is what she refers to as where the vast majority of Americans actually are. So that's
loving Alan Dershowitz. Is that true? I find it hard.
According to Bari Weiss, apparently
they just look into that melted Princess Bride. Remember the miracle worker from the Princess Bride, Billy Crystal, in that melty makeup?
Oh yes,
that's what he looks like. Imagine some poor girl at Epstein Island. You got to look at that melted human.
Well, here's Bari Weiss.
All of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hasan Piker and Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes and, you know, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans.
Right. You know who represents our values? CNN, Fox News, you know, billionaire-owned media companies. That's who represent our values.
So let me get this straight. It'll be all that woke shit, but now it'll be us, the great nation of Israel, doing it.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. That's fair.
For the 75%, for the people that are on the center left and the center right, that still believe in equality of opportunity, that still believe passionately in the American project, that still believe in all of the things that everyone in this room believes in, which is liberty and freedom and individual responsibility and in the most basic level, the right to know what is actually going on in the world. Not the world as propagandists and ideologues imagine it to be, but what's actually going on in the world and in your community. So
right, and mainstream media always lets us know actually what's going on. You know, Joe Biden is healthy. Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. The vaccine is safe and effective. You know, they always tell us the truth. They always let us know what's going on.
Make decisions about where to send your kids to school, about where to live, and about how to vote. That used to just be normal. And the goal of what we're trying to do at CBS is to get back to that normalcy. And I feel incredibly energized and enthusiastic because I think that is where the vast majority of Americans actually are.
Well,
of course Shapiro's there.
Yeah.
So that articulation of that set of goals to speak into the lives of the 75%, how are you going to do that? What's your strategy for success?
So I think one of the problems is a lot of people have tried to do centrist news. I know this because I am like the target audience for those things. And the reason that they have all failed is it's like trying to force feed spinach down someone's throat, right? It's felt very like tofu, oatmeal. It's like centrist news is choosing the midpoint between every single topic. It's felt like an absence of charisma and identity. And I, you know, as nostalgic as people might be for an era in which 30 million Americans every night watched Walter Cronkite and saw him as the voice of truth, and I understand why they're nostalgic for that. We're not going back to that. So how do you build trust in a moment of unbelievably low trust in all of our public institutions?
Release the Epstein files?
Especially the mainstream press.
That might help.
How about, Wow.
I wasn't around for Walter Cronkite, but the news back then, from what I understand, was just telling you facts and then you made up your mind. The news now tells you what to think.
Yeah. By the way, they were lying to you back then as well. Don't think they weren't. Walter Cronkite narrates the Bohemian Grove owl ceremony. Okay. But they were better. The lizards then were better than these lizards. You know, they were more qualified. Their lizard kids can't work the projector too good, is how I like to say it. Metaphorically.
Well, we used to have news, I feel like, that would give you information, then you decide what to think. Now the news tells you what to think. And I think Bari Weiss does that on her platforms. I mean, pretty much everyone does that now. That's how news is.
I don't think it's by pretending like we can go back to having a view from nowhere. I think it's about who's in the room, right? I think it's about redrawing the lines of what falls in the 40-yard lines of acceptable debate.
And who decides what acceptable debate is? Bari Weiss?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She decides what's acceptable?
I mean, the person who puppets her and whatever. She's not... Look, I've spoken to her before. She was very nice when I talked to her, but it's very clear she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's like a socialite or something. Like what we talked about that soccer player they just overthrew in Pakistan for not supporting Ukraine enough. Remember Khan? Okay. And I happened to be talking on the phone because they were going to book me and Kyle to do pussies on some show. And she goes, "Oh, that guy's crazy. He was dating this opera singer and he wouldn't let it." She just started telling me gossip. I'm like, "Oh, she's silly. She's a silly person." Did
she say he was an Assad toady? Yeah. Is that what she said?
She might as well say, "Jamie, look that up."
Let's see. Was
and
everything else
acceptable American politics and culture. And I don't mean that in like a censorious gatekeeping way. I mean having people that are clearly identifiably on the center left and on the center right in conversation with each other. And we've been doing so much of this at the Free Press. I was in, where was I? Chicago. Last week, I think, I've lost all track of time, where Dana Loesch, former spokeswoman from the NRA, was debating Alan Dershowitz on guns. Now, these are people that have wildly different opinions on the Second Amendment, and yet showing that they can have good faith, very passionate, very charismatic disagreement and still like each other at the end of the day. We think it's important. And so for me, it's always about the curation, like who's in the room, how are you showing centrist news not as the absence of disagreement.
First of all, she just described a podcast. That's all that is. Two people debating something or having a conversation. You just described a podcast. We don't need you and CBS News.
Well, America's a podcast at this point, aren't we? Mean, it's certainly not a country. Ask Bono. He'll tell you.
America's
it's an idea.
Podcast.
It's a podcast. Yeah.
That really is true. That's all social media is, just people.
And the absence of charisma, but explicitly charismatic and disagreeable, and yet doing it in good faith. And the other way you do it is, by being really honest with your audience. Like,
oh my God. Seriously? All right. Bari Weiss is now CBS News editor-in-chief after Paramount acquires the Free Press. Journalist and entrepreneur Bari Weiss is taking charge at CBS News, and her startup, the Free Press, is being acquired by CBS parent company Paramount. She will continue to run the Free Press as a standalone brand within its new owner, Paramount. The company did not release details about the transaction, but the Wall Street Journal reported that Paramount is paying about $150 million for the startup. You know, you're getting the straight news when you're getting paid millions of dollars for it. It's a
is that Larry Ellison's Paramount? Yes, I believe it is. Or his boy, the Ellison boy, with no eyebrows. Ellison.
Yes, it's a buzzy and risky move. The editor of a digital magazine with a clear editorial POV, collaborating with one of the country's oldest broadcasters, that reflects Paramount CEO David Ellison's desire to shake up CBS News.
Oh, that'll be a real shake-up, a monopoly.
The Free Press has won fans and created plenty of fodder for critics with heterodox columns and features. Since the site launched as a newsletter in 2021, its volume of so-called anti-woke content has stood out in a crowded media landscape. So have its opinion pieces conveying strong support for Israel, a view that Ellison outspokenly shares.
Yeah, but he don't live there, though, does he? He ain't going to move there.
Yeah, have you ever been? I thought we were getting unbiased news now. What's
only
this all about?
Only on guns.
Only on guns.
Only on debating guns.
But on Israel,
look, here's the 40-yard line. You're talking about possibly not giving Israel your fucking money. And that cannot be within the bounds of this football game. It is just a game. You have no power and your vote means nothing. So now all that's left is to adjust the rules to suit me.
Apparently.
We're good. Yeah.
In a letter to all Paramount staffers on Monday, Ellison bemoaned partisan division and hostile disputes in America and said the media amplifies the very partisanship tearing our society apart. At Paramount, he said, we aim to do our part in helping rebuild a society where our shared humanity unites us and where our differences become a source of strength rather than division. All the media does is divide us. What is it? That's all they've ever done.
It's the oldest form of controlling crowd control known to man.
And now he's pretending they're going to do something different.
Rebuild a society. They did their work in that dialectic scam. So we just had an enacted on purpose. How many years of like insane nonsense, right? Or you lose your job.
Right.
And now they're going to swing the pendulum the other way within the range they want. This has happened like a few times. And that's how you know Trump did blow Bubba. That's how you know he did.
In a statement, Ellison said, we believe the majority of the country longs for news that is balanced and fact-based, and we want CBS to be their home.
Maybe starving them kids is okay. I'd like to hear the balanced view of that.
Yes, please tell us the balanced view.
That wonderful woman that said we shouldn't have told them about the Holocaust because now people get emotional when we Holocaust someone.
Right. Weiss is expected to meet with CBS News staffers. In her letter to subscribers, she said of Ellison and the Paramount leadership team, they understand as we do that America cannot thrive without common facts, common truths, and a common reality.
Oh, you don't really? But I could be really poor though, right? And you could be like in Tomorrowland.
Right.
Well, you don't mean in that regard. You just mean we all love Israel.
Right, exactly. As long as we're all in agreement on that, we're good.
Yeah.
Here's Glenn Greenwald. The example Bari Weiss gave of the charismatic mainstream debate she believes will revitalize CBS, namely the gun control debate she arranged, has so far been watched by a grand total of 860 people in 5 hours. So that's a lot of views she's getting on this stuff. And here we have Hassan saying, what makes this funnier is that her outlet, CBS News, is currently trying to set up a debate with me.
Yeah.
So
they're gonna punt him.
I guess so. If you want the truth, got to go to Bari Weiss. That's the only person who's telling you the truth, and how dare you listen to anyone else. That's where we're at, apparently.
Come see me on tour in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Waikiki, Hawaii, and the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.